Alright, in this video I'm going to try to explain how to get the percent of a whole number. Okay, and we've got four practice questions here. We've got number one, 30% of $10, 30% of 10. Number two is 70% of $5. Number three is 15% of $20. And number four is 63% of $12. All right, and the trick that it's not really a trick, but one of the methods I use is to draw this sort of table, and you have basically two rows in the table. On the top row, you have percent in sets of 10, so you have 10%, 20%, 30%. 40%, 50%, and so on up to 100. And in the bottom, all right, you start by writing in the numbers that you can easily work out, and then you fill in the spaces that you don't know. So, for example, if we're doing number one first, let's change to my marker here. We're doing 30% of 10. Well, first of all, we look at the 10, okay, and in this case, because it's 10, we write 10 as 100% because that's the most we could have. Okay? We just want to find out what is 30% of that. So the most we could have is 10. Okay? And what's half of 10? What's half of 10? That would be 5. So we can write 5 in here. And 10% of 10 is basically just 10 divided by 10, which is 1. Okay, and now we can fill in these spaces here with the numbers if we just look at what we've got. So it looks as if I've got 1 here, and I've got 5 here, and I've got 10 over here. This is likely to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so if that's correct, just fill in the numbers here. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so I'm just going to move everything up a little bit. So that means that 30% of 10, not $10, just 10, is going to be, we look along our chart here. Well, there's 30% there, and it's 3. So that means that 30% of 10 is going to be 3. All right, that's a really simple way of explaining it. So that's number 1. We've answered number 1. So we've done that one. Okay. So now let's look at number 2. This one is saying 70% of 5. Okay, so just give me a moment while I take out these numbers, and we'll do it again. Okay, so we know that we're looking at 70%. Sorry. We're looking at 70% of $5 now, so that means that our answer is going to be money, okay? And again, if we've got $5, that means that $5 is the most we can have, so we need to put that into the 100% column, okay? And what is half? What is half of $5? We would slot the answer in here, so that's going to be $2.50. And that means that 10% of $5, well, $5 is 10% of $5 is just $5 divided by 10, which would equal 50 cents. Okay, so we write 50 cents. Okay. And now we can fill in the rest of these boxes, as I said, with the other example we did earlier. All right, so if we know that 10% is 50 cents, then 20% is just going to be double that, and that's going to be $1. Okay, 30% is just going to be either 3 times 50. I'll change my pointer here. 30% is simply going to be 3 times 50, or it could be this, 20% plus this. You can do it any way you want, or you can mix and match these almost any way you want. So it's important to use the information that is being given to you in the chart to help you fill in the missing bits. All right. So we'll say that 30% is the same as 10% plus 20%, which is going to be $1.50. Okay. And the 40 is, I'm going to just say that it's double 20%, so 20% times 2, and we know that 20% in this case is $1, so 40% is going to be $2. All right, and we can check our work because we see that 50% is $2.50, so that should be only 50 cents more than 40%, and that's right, so we've got $2 here. All right, so 60% could be either double 30%, which would be $3, or it could be 40% plus 20%, or it could be 50% plus 10%. However you want to mix and match to make 60% is totally up to you. I prefer the doubling method, so I'm going to take 30% times 2, which is going to give me $3. And does that make sense with what I've got here? In this box, yeah, it sure does, because it's 10% more, so it means that it must be 50 cents more. And I can fill in the rest here. Okay, so there we've got our chart. So now we can say that 70% of $5, okay, we just look at, we just find 70% on our chart here, and we look down, it's $3.50. Okay, so we hardly had to do any math at all, really. Sorry, my pen's gone a little bit wonky. Okay, so I'm just going to work out 70% of $5 in the next slide, just so I have some more room, okay? So, switch to the next slide. Okay, so we're looking at 70%. Whoa. Of $5. Okay, and if you remember what we had in the previous slide, we saw that it was $3.50. And I'm going to have to change my pen. Okay, so the next question we had was 15%, there we go, of 20. Okay, so again we draw our chart, and I'll just go ahead and draw this chart, and I'll be right back when I'm done. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put in 20 in the 100% column, and as I said before, the top row is percent. Okay, and I've given you the little percent symbol on the side to remind you. All right, so we know that if 20 is 100%, well, half of 20, or 50%, would have to be 10. And 10% of 20 is just going to be 20 divided by 10, which would equal 2. So that means that we have 2 over here. All right, and that means that if you can look at these three numbers, you can pretty much work out that it's going to go up, that every 10% we go up, okay, we're going to add on another 2. So this is going to be 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. All right? Okay, so we've got that much. So what we're looking at is 15%. Now, the other problems that we did were pretty straightforward in the sense that they were like whole sets of 10, like this one here was 70%. All right, but now we're looking at 15. Well, basically, what we're doing is we're working out what is the number that is right in the middle here between 10 and 20. All right, and that's probably going to be the number that is right in the middle here where this dot is that I'm drawing. So what number is right in the middle between 2 and 4? Well, that number would be 3. Okay, so that means that 15% of 20 equals 3. And that's how you work it out. If it was another percent, like the one we're going to do next, there's a slightly more complex way of working it out if it isn't like a nice neat number like 5 or like 15 or 10 or 70 or something like that. So the next question we're going to do is 63% of $12, and I'll show you how to work that out in a moment. Okay, so in this question we have 63% of $12. All right, and I've gone ahead and drawn the table, and I've put in 12 for 100%. So the most we could have is $12, and 100% is $12 in this question. Okay, so again we fill in what we can easily work out. Well, we can work out pretty simply that 50% of $12 is going to be half, so half of 12 is going to be 6. All right, and again we can work out 10%. It's just going to be 12 divided by 10, which would leave us with $1.20. Okay, so 120. All right, and now we just go ahead and we fill in the spaces that we don't know yet. All right, and obviously, just as I did in the first part, I'm just going to use the numbers I know to help me work out the numbers that I don't. So for example, I'm looking at 20 now here. I can just get the answer for this box here by saying, well, right, what is 2 times $1.20? Well, it's going to be $2.40. Okay. Another way you could do it is just say, right, for the 30% column, I could just say 240 plus 120 is going to give me what? Well, it's going to give me 360. And then add another 120 gives me 480. And to just check my work, if I add 120 to 480, does that give me $6? Yes, it does. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the rest of the box. And the rest of the boxes, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I've filled in the rest of the boxes, and now we need to start working it out. Okay, so 63, first thing we need to do is look at 63. 63% is actually made up of 60% plus 3%. Okay, so it's going to help to break that up. So first of all, 60%, this is where our table comes in. 60% of $12 is, as we can see here, $7.20. Okay, so now we have to work out what is this 3%. Well, if you're looking up here, okay, to get 10% of $12, we divided by 10. Okay, now in order to work out the 3% here, we need to divide the $12 not by 10% but by 100%. Okay, and that simply moves the decimal. I'll write it down here so it doesn't get too messy. $12 divided by 100, that simply moves the decimal 2 columns over. So now we're talking about 12 cents. Okay, so that means that 1% of $12 is 12 cents. Okay, so now if we know that, all we need to do now is multiply the 12 by 3. Okay, 12 cents times 3 is going to give me what? 36 cents. All right, so now I just add that to my 720. So 3% equals 36 cents. I add that up. Let's see if I can move it up. No, I can't. Okay. Have to squish it in here then. So all of that, when I add it up, is going to give me $7.56. So that means that 63% is $7.56. Okay, 63% of $12 equals $7.56. All right. Okay, so let's have a real-world example, and we'll see how you go. Okay, so I have here a receipt from a trip to a restaurant that I made recently, the Swiss Hotel, very nice restaurant. And this is my receipt after paying for dinner. So it was $144 for 3 of us. All right, and I had to pay a 10% service charge. That's to the waiters and waitresses that helped us. I had to pay 7% tax for the food that I ate. So it actually started off at $118 because I got a bit of a discount. So I was actually being asked to pay $118 plus 10% plus 7% tax. Okay, so let's just go through. I'm using these to help us to make sure we've got the right answer. Let's work these numbers out and see how we go. All right. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to work out is how much of a discount I got off my original bill of $144. You'll remember that I said that the original bill was $144, and I got a bit of a discount, which was 18%. So what we're going to do is work out the 18% of $144. All right, so I've gone ahead and filled in a few of the numbers. 144 for 100%, which was the total amount of the bill. I filled in what the amount would be for half of that, and the amount for 10% of that. And as I've said before, you just keep adding. In this case, 10% is $14.40. So for each step, for each of these missing boxes, you just add on another $14.40. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is I'd like you to fill in the amounts that should go in for 60, 70, 80, and 90%. So stop the video, fill in those missing amounts, and then start the video again and just double check to make sure you've got the right numbers. Okay, so I've filled in the numbers here, as you can see, so double check to make sure you've got the same answers. And you'll see up here that I've written 144, excuse me, that I've written 144 divided by 10 equals 1440. That's how I got this 1440 here for 10%. Remember, for 10%, you always divide by 10. And to get 1% of 1440, sorry, to get 1% of $144, I have to divide by 100. And that means that $1.44 is 1% of this amount. Okay, we're going to need this information here now to work out the rest of our question. Okay, so just change pens. All right. So 144 is the amount that we're starting with, and we need to get 18% of it. Okay, so 10% of $144, we can see from our chart right here, is $14.40. All right, and if you remember, because we're looking at 18%, okay, you have to break it down like I did in the previous question. So 18% is really like 10% plus a 5% plus a 3%. Okay, so we've got our 10%, $14.40. All right, now we need to work on the 5%. 5% of 144 is going to be half of this amount. So it's going to be $7.20. Okay, and now we work on the 3%. 3% of $144, okay, is going to be simply 3 times this amount, because that's 1%, so we multiply it by 3, okay, leaves me with 432, okay, that's a 3. Sorry, my pen is going for some reason. And now I just add all of that up. Okay, so it's going to give me 2, 4, 6, 9, and that's 4, and 7 is 11, plus 4, 15. Okay, and 2, 25.92. And because it was a discount, that means I need to subtract that amount. I need to subtract this amount from 144. All right, and I'll do that over here because I'm kind of running out of space. Okay, so 144 subtract 25. Oh dear. Okay, well, it looks like you're going to have to do that in your head or on a piece of paper. You can consider that a practice question. 144 subtract 25.92. It looks like my program is crashing. Anyway, good luck. I hope you found this helpful. I know it's been a long video, but I hope you got a lot out of it. Good luck.